Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to speak with you all today, although over a video link, and I'll certainly miss meeting you in person and connecting with you as we normally would at our physical event. However, we have a great afternoon of inspiration for you in our new digital format. As Eric said, this is our 8th Innovation Day, and Innovation Days provide an opportunity to reflect together on the changing world we live in, to gain inspiration to drive our industries forward, and all at a time when innovations such as AI, automation, quantum computing, bioinnovation are revolutionizing that world. At previous Innovation Days, we've talked about the exceptionally fast rate of technological and societal change. However, in 2020, COVID-19 has accelerated that change worldwide beyond all expectations. At the start of the pandemic, we saw companies looking to delay business as usual. In other words, do the same thing, but later. Now, any smart business is reacting and planning for change, a new business as usual. And these changes are in a variety of areas, and here are some examples. Firstly, changes in demand at both an individual consumer level as well as an overall market level. And then acceleration of digital as we rely more on non-physical techniques and also greater efficiencies. And then faster adoption due to the social barriers lowering and people becoming more comfortable to adopt more quickly, for example, in areas such as digital health. And then pressure on supply chains to reflect the big changes in demand and also increases in things like online shopping. So completely new expectations for human-machine interfaces, including more contactless and digitally driven techniques. So COVID is stress testing innovation. And what I mean by that is that businesses are seeking to make these significant changes and innovate more than ever, but in an environment that's more challenging than ever. An environment of uncertainty in business and markets, caution in the use of cash and resources, and with key aspects of manufacturing like supply chains under stress, so creating a fundamental tension. This forces us to think about ways to optimize our innovation approaches to enable us to achieve ambitious changes in a more confident and resilient way in this environment. And we are certainly helping our clients across all markets to find the best ways to innovate in this environment. So in this context, I'd like to propose 3 questions for us to consider during the presentations today. The first is a basic and overarching concept. What role can your company purpose play in helping to deliver a Society 5.0 beyond the pandemic? The second is, what new technology areas should you embrace to disrupt and lead your market? And the third is, what changes in innovation approach will be valuable in this climate to help address the tension for greater innovation despite the challenging climate? So let's consider the first. What role can your company purpose play? And in March this year, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella wrote a letter to his worldwide team to lead them through the pandemic. And it said, "It is in times of great disruption and uncertainty that our ability to stay grounded in our sense of purpose and to remain true to our identity is of the utmost importance." And what Satya was saying was that he believed Microsoft's purpose was the foundation for the future he saw, how a strong purpose can help stabilize through times of rapid change, providing a clear guiding light or North Star. And Satya is not alone. 181 top CEOs representing around a third of America's total market capitalization joined together as leaders on purpose to issue a joint letter stating how important a company's purpose was in serving customers and society, and in fact, not solely shareholders. As an example, we've seen the huge rise in home deliveries during lockdown. And if you asked yourself today, would you rather be a company with the world's most efficient supply chain or a company with the world's most resilient and sustainable supply chain, what would you say? I'm sure many of you would say the second answer, which places a very different emphasis on the purpose and the approach to take. So we should ask ourselves, do we have a clear company purpose that can provide guidance in these challenging times? And what concrete initiatives can we take to fulfill that purpose as an organisation? And now on to our second question. The stress test of COVID-19 has emphasised how critical it will be to embrace new technologies to respond to the changes in societal and market needs that we see. So what are some of the technology areas we might embrace to be leaders in our markets? Here are some top areas that we're working with for our clients, and you'll be hearing more about some of those in the later presentations. The first is next generation user interfaces, so matching our new ways of living, higher expectations for natural interfaces, and also contactless experiences. We'll be hearing more about next generation user interfaces in the next presentation. Connectivity and mobility to suit the distributed geography of our world and to enable IoT applications supporting greater efficiencies and performance. Ever-increasing intelligence, such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, to provide high levels of automation and sophistication to meet needs, like the demands of our ageing populations and reduced resources. And then new forms of simulation, enabling faster ways to develop, prototype, and launch new products and services. And then completely new categories of innovation like bioinnovation, the use of biological techniques to create solutions, and you'll hear more about that in our break. And finally, new digital platforms to support the levels of digitization desired, and even companies already investing highly in new digital strategies are accelerating their platform investments even further as digital accelerates further. So which technology areas are important for your company to embrace to make the necessary progress? And now to the final question, and this is more about moving from the what to the how. And I'd like to highlight three areas. The first is new ways to access inspiration and new ideas. And this is a really critical step to advance innovation in new areas using techniques such as identifying external associations and partners to help accelerate access to new capabilities and roadmaps. Also developing technology translators, those rare people that are technically and commercially astute and can make the connection between business needs and emerging technologies. And finally, having really strong contact with the market to follow the rapidly evolving market needs at this time. The second method is methods to deal with uncertainty, so a critical ingredient in today's climate where direction and resources can be uncertain. Here, we are using techniques with our clients to build confidence in the direction of their development investments, using structured approaches to assess and select options, and also creating solutions based on adaptable platforms and roadmaps that can pivot and evolve as market needs change. And finally, the use of agile development approaches, even in markets where they're not traditionally used, that have a smaller approach to development, smaller steps to be taken, building confidence at each stage. And you'll hear about an extreme example of this later in our development of a medical ventilator to fight COVID in just 6 weeks with a distributed team in lockdown. And finally, upskilling the business. So firstly, creating an environment where teams are comfortable to challenge approaches. Without this, rapid change is very difficult. Then to make sure that the business is truly comfortable to embrace new technology areas which require upskilling, but also practical exposure to build confidence. And finally, making sure that the forums for innovation and mentoring are retained, even in a lockdown or distributed environment. So overall, tuning up the effectiveness of every yen spent on innovation to create concrete results. So 3 questions I hope that provide inspiration generally, but also whilst we hear the rest of our speakers today around the role of purpose, around the role of embracing new technologies, and finally optimizing our innovation approach. Thank you for listening.